Well, the story is that in Scotland we had the King of Scotland. Alexander, the King of Scotland, lived in Dunfermline. Now we had three Alexanders. We had Alexander the First, Alexander the Second, and Alexander the Third. Alexander the First was married to the daughter of old King Canute, the man who tried to turn back the tide, you know? Alexander the Second was a brother-in-law to Edward the Conqueror of the Scots. Brother-in-law. He was married to Sister Margaret. But Alexander the Third had never married. He was an old man. And up in his 60s, I would think. The third Alexander of Scotland. Then he was promised a young wife, a young woman for his wife from the King of Norway. So they would unite the two countries, Norway and Scotland were united. So then Alexander accepted this, because he was a lonely old man. And then he said, well, there's nothing good enough for my young queen to send an old boat in the middle of winter to Norway. And he wanted the young woman to keep her company through the cold winter night, right? So he gave orders to Burnt Island. There was always been a shipbuilding yard in Burnt Island. Back to the days of the sailing ships, and long before that, medieval times, they built boats, even dug out canoes in Burnt Island at one time. So he gave orders to build a boat, but to take a crew to Norway to bring back the young woman to be his queen. So now after he had built the boat was ready, but by the time it was finished, it was the middle of winter. And the king needed to have a good skipper to take this boat to Norway, because in these days navigation was very poor. He needed to have a seaman. Now the greatest seaman in Scotland at that time was a chap known as Sir Patrick Spens. But Sir Patrick Spens was an old man, and he had retired and he'd given up the sea. And then one night, all round the king's table, having a drink and a talk, the king explained the situation to all his noblemen. And one old man sitting beside the king said, I know the perfect man for you, my lord. And this is what happened. Oh, the king, he sits in Dunfermline. He's a drinking the blood red wine. He said, where shall I find a skeely skipper who will sail this new ship of mine? Then up and speaks an old elderly knight, who sits by the king's right knee. He said, Sir Patrick Spens is the finest sailor that ever did sail the sea. So the king is taking his quill in hand, and in a letter he did say, you mun tak this to Sir Patrick Spens, you mun tak it right away. Oh, the first words Sir Patrick read, oh, a tear it blinded his ear, and the next words Sir Patrick read, oh, a loud laugh he said, what's gone and done this thing, and tell the king on me that I mun sail through storm and gale, that I mun gang to Norway. But I'll sail, my lord, I will go, my king, I will sail right through the field, I'll make my way to Norway, and I'll bring your Margaret home. So they sailed away from Dunfermline. They sailed right through the Fame, for they were bound for Norway, just to bring young Margaret home. Well, they hadna been in Norway a week nor scarcely three, when the highest lords in the king's court did turn around and did say, oh, those Scottish men, they drink our wines and they spend our gold, and they have come from Scotland, and they brought none of their own. Oh, you ears are loud, cries Sir Patrick Spens. You ears are loud, cried he. There is 20,000 of gold and silver in a dowry I have brought with me. But I'll sail this night, this very night. I'll sail right through the Fame. I will make my way to Scotland, and I'll bring young Margaret home. So they sailed away from Norway. They sailed right through the Fame, for they were bound for Dunfermline, just to bring young Margaret home. But in the Firth of Forth they ran into a storm, and the waves around them they did sweep. Now Sir Patrick Spens and his gallant crew lie sleeping in the deep. Now to sail all the way from Norway to the Firth of Forth, just outside of Burnt Island, across from Edinburgh, all the way they sailed, and they met a storm, and the only one at Aberdour was about 6 miles from Dunfermline, when they were sunk by a storm, and Sir Patrick Spens, Princess, the crew and all, lies asleep in the Firth of Forth for this day. The king was so upset, he got on his horse and he rode across the cliffs of Dunfermline, and he went over the cliff and was killed.
Oh, he drowned himself.
Alexander III was killed of his horse on the cliff. He was so upset watching for the boat coming in that he fell over the cliffs and was killed. And that is a true story. True historical story.
From whom did you learn the song and the story?
Well, I learned the story from the old travelling people who were not educated people, but had heard the story passed down through the generation of people. And also I read the story of Sir Patrick Spens, was produced by, just for curiosity's sake, I wrote Nigel Trantler's story of Sir Patrick Spens, just to find the truth.
Yeah.
And most of us, he had done, Nigel Trantler is a great
That was
writer.
only recently.
And
You only read that story.
I read the story recently, Find the Truth.
Uh-huh.
But there's nothing in my song that I hadn't already known.
Right.
I mean, I didn't add nothing by reading Nigel Trantler's story or the same story. So
Right.
his research came just the same thing as what the travellers have been talking about all the time. And it came to the boat sunk in Aberdour, which is about 4 miles from Burnt Island, which is about 5 miles from Dunfermline. And he was just nearly home when they ran into the most fiercest storm to cross the whole North Sea and get sunk in the Firth of Forth. And that is a true story.